The achievement gap is really an educational gap in terms of performance of our educators themselves. We need to look honestly at vouchers. We need to open up the discussion. The problem that we face is that those people who are supposed to represent us, an organization such as the NAACP, is on the verge of becoming a civil rights relic.
Well, you know, I want to talk. You said the NAACP is in bed with the teachers' union, and you don't mean that in a good way. I'm assuming.
Not in this the case. What they've produced, the offspring, is an achievement gap that is colossal and continues to grow. Even in some of the states where education seems to be working for white children, it's not working for black children. The places where it works is when children have access to choice. And in cities such as New York, choice is becoming the order of the day. That needs to be the choice, the order of the day throughout the country. At some point or another, the NAACP has to remember that its mission is to give voice to the voiceless, and the most voiceless are the children.
Ms. Perry, Reverend, I'm going to bring you in here. Don't worry, but and to respond to this next question. But first, I want to ask Mr. Perry this: what do you mean becoming a relic? Because we've talked about the relevance of the NAACP, and I put that question out there last weekend, I believe, and someone said, "How can you say the NAACP might not be relevant?" And I said, "There's a difference between relevance and still needed." You say it's becoming a relic. Why? Do you not believe it's reaching the right people, or what?
Michael Jordan is relevant to the history of basketball, but LeBron James is the chosen one. What we need to look at is what is relevant now. When we talk to our children, what our children, the kids in my school in Hartford, Connecticut, not in New York, in Hartford, Connecticut, talk about, they see the NAACP as the Image Awards. They see the NAACP as the Freedom Fund dinners, which are corporate sponsored.
All right, so it's just sort of a headline or a marquee and there's nothing behind it, empty.
From the Niagara movement to Hollywood, that's not what this is supposed to be about.
Reverend Sharpton, go for it.
Well, I think that, first of all, I would agree that the civil rights issue of today is education. If you don't have equal access to the same education, you cannot produce the equality that is the goal in society. And I think the president is right in identifying that, and that's why some across party lines and racial lines, as he has said in that speech, have come together. I think, though, that the NAACP and other civil rights groups cannot be aligned with those that would make them not address that. But at the same time, there are social issues that have to be addressed around the educational experience. Those same young people still have the right to employment in a fair way. They have the right not to be harassed by police. And I think groups like the NAACP and others still have to fight those fights.
But do you think the NAACP is still relevant?
Absolutely. I think they're relevant. And I think the fact is that we can hold organizations accountable without saying that they're irrelevant, because if you think of the issues that has occurred in the last decade, if it has been police brutality, if it has been Katrina, Gina, NAACP was there with us in National Action.
Hold that thought when you're talking about police brutality and all those other things, because I want to play what the president said about the criminal justice system, Reverend, and Stephen, I want to get your response.
We know that even as we imprison more people of all races than any nation in the world, an African-American child is roughly 5 times as likely as a white child to see the inside of a prison.
Reverend, how do we address that?
We must address that by dealing with the inequality in the criminal justice system. How are judges that look at the same people accused of a crime, same criminal background, but they are apt, according to data, that's what the president was addressing, to send blacks to jail 5 times more likely to do than a white charged with the same crime, with the same criminal background, no matter what their education. So where I'm the first one to say that I agree with Steve and the work he's doing around education, I say even educated blacks still face a different level in the criminal justice system, in the economic system. Blacks on Wall Street that can't get jobs, their problem is not their education. Their problem is an institutional inequality in the finance industry and the criminal justice industry. So we must use education as a way to go in, but we can't act like it just ends there.
Hey, you know, I want to talk to my producers real quick, because I really want you guys to weigh in on this. Can we stretch this a little bit, guys? Is that okay? We can't? I wanted you guys to weigh in because we had Walter Cronkite talking about Martin Luther King Jr., which I thought was very appropriate, and I wanted to, yeah, okay, let's play it. We'll make room for it. Go ahead.
He spoke so well, so beautifully, so almost poetry came from here, making clear the fact that the blacks were not getting their freedoms in what should be a free nation. And with his magnificent speeches, almost prayers, he awakened so many of the whites as well as the blacks who already understood the fact that they were not being treated fairly. And with his leadership in that regard, he brought us all to the understanding that we needed a change in this nation to assure freedom for all of our citizens, black and white.
One legend talking about another there, talking about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Mr. Perry, still a long way to go. Obviously progress, but still a long way to go.
Well, there is.
And I don't want to put words in your mouth. Maybe you don't feel that way.
Well, I know that there's a tremendous amount of progress. Let's be honest. If white folks didn't want a black president, there wouldn't be a black president. It was the butt of every joke up to now. And we have to understand and give credit where credit is due. There's still racism, and the biggest racism the black community is challenged with is the internal racism that we have towards one another.
Yeah.
The circumstances that exist in our communities where, in many cases, where there are quite a number of black people, where the majority of the community is black, we run those communities. We are the borough presidents. We are the principals and preachers and teachers.
Steve, I really have to go for time purposes here, but again, I wrote about that last time, Black in America, on AC360's blog about racism in our own community. Reverend, just 5 seconds. I'll give you the last word here.
I mean, all of us know Dr. King helped to change the country, but the question is now we have to continue that change. And if what King did is to be validated in our time, we have to close the achievement gap in education and in the criminal justice system. Right. We can't just end with King. We must continue what King fought for.
Steve Perry and Reverend Al Sharpton. Hey, thank you guys so much. Really appreciate it. It's good to see you, Reverend. You look much more rested than when I saw you last week. So
thank you.
Congratulations. I'm glad you got some sleep finally.